Thank you so much for joining us. This is the slot right after the lunch, which is, this is a graveyard. This is the biggest challenge in cyber capacity building, the lunch, and then the slot after. So thank you again, and we will end on time. That's the ground rule. We will have to finish by 3:30. No worries that we started late. My name is Kim from Interpol, cybercrime specialized officer. So this session is pillar 4 of the GC3B conference, which is operationalizing the many ideas that we had in a couple of days. We have a great panels. I will introduce them in a second. So cyber capacity building is one of the core business of Interpol, honestly. Well, we do the operational case investigations, we coordinate with the countries, we enrich the intelligence, but we have 196 member countries now, so you can imagine the spectrum of our member countries and their capabilities, and then when you don't have some sort of harmonization, then your actions may not really have intended outcome, especially when we think about case operations. There are many hiccups. So during the conference, we have discussed many ideas about how we can make things stick. How can we be more sustainable by building some strategic plans, making demand-driven activities, giving some more local context, more communication, all that. But here I would like to focus a bit more on actions on criminal justice authorities. I'm actually working for the Conversely Plus project with Council of Europe partners. And we focus not just on the law enforcement, but also broader criminal justice authorities and community. So we have to admit that we are not doing too good as we hope. Some say, there's no statistics by the way, but some say there's like 1% of the criminals are being prosecuted. Maybe that's 0.01. I mean, we don't really have the statistics, but that's what's said. And after that, how much money do we retrieve from the criminals is another 0.0 point something. So that's that being said, we have a long way to go. I hope that the prosecution could be 50%, 60%, but we're actually hoping for 10%, honestly, at this moment. That would be excellent, yeah. So changes are like, if you were here in the last session, is coming from A to B. It's a change. I mean, the capacity building is a change. So how do you make that change? We have a couple of different ways. We have many ideas. How do we implement that? That will be our main discussion point of this. One, ground rule, we don't have much resources. That's the assumption. And how can we make impact when we don't have much resources? And we as countries, member countries of Interpol, will not have the resources. Budapest Convention is a great resource of connecting countries, but Interpol cannot just look at that community because it's only 69, 70?
68 plus 23.
Plus 23, which are, okay, 91. That's the size of the community there, but we also have some countries, many countries, who are not party to or invited to the convention. So that's something that we have to look at. So one example is TOT, teaching the train the trainer, which can have some ripple effect, but what other examples can we actually dig from our capacity building programs? We have a great panelist here. I would like to, from here, Alexander Seeger. Today he's wearing a hat as head of cybercrime program office of Council of Europe. We have Peguero, Claudio, who is an ambassador Are you wearing an ambassador hat, or are you wearing an ambassador hat? Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, so he's no more a general now. Okay. We have Tatiana Cesario from Public Ministry of Paraguay. In Paraguay, the prosecutors are like semi-law enforcement, so they do have the law enforcement job together with the police. So you can consider her as a law enforcement. And then we have Atul Harilar from Uppsala Security. That's rather small, medium-sized security provider based in Singapore. Atul is specialized in crypto asset tracing. And then we have Sebi Rodolphe Akjaibe. He is a judicial advisor of ASIN, Information Systems and Data Agency of Benin. Okay, we would like to begin our first round of questions. First going to Claudio. Claudio, could you discuss your experience of Dominican Republic? How did you bring the stakeholders together, and then how did you define the priorities in your strategic plans? And then in doing so, what was the key challenges, and what was the added value from doing so?
Thank you, Kim. I think we learned a lot from Glacy Plus in that sense. We used, ever since we enacted our cybercrime law in 2007, we created this interinstitutional commission that basically had the prosecution, police, National Department of Investigations, the telecom regulator, and the idea was it was sort of a model similar to the TCY in terms that commission had to follow up on the implementation of the cybercrime law. So from day one, we've had very good communications among the different actors. But the one thing that we, I think, learned first from the TCY, then from Glacy, is that when we became, in 2016, we became a priority country and a regional hub for Glacy, we then created this national Glacy Plus team also to be able to properly channel this capacity building, these trainings. So that first step, I think, brought us closer in terms of being able to properly identify the needs, to properly map the needs, the training needs that the people had. But the other thing is that, and you mentioned this a moment ago, since the resources are finite, we have these projects, these capacity building projects that we've benefited from, but we don't know how long those projects can keep bringing this training, because it is expensive. It costs a lot of money to do that. So the approach of again, Glacy Plus, and you also mentioned the train the trainers, is that we make it sustainable on the one hand by creating this local talent, but the great advantage is also that these trainers are the practitioners. So that in the training that Interpol brings, that teaches them how to develop the course, how to develop the lesson plan. It allows you then to take this training that we originally received and adapt it to our needs. We use an expression that it's untranslatable to English. It's aplatanar. Is take something and adapt it to our Dominican reality. And I believe every single country may have a thing or two that they need to adapt because of the way that their system works, or for any reason, you need to adapt. So the great thing, because if you are coming to train some people from Singapore, from Interpol, I can explain as much as I want some realities that in our system, and you're not going to fully understand them unless you are a practitioner there. So I think the great value is that the people that have become trainers are the practitioners that understand what are our problems, what are our limitations, and you know, and sometimes we have to get creative about that also.
Thank you, Claudio. So to me, the national needs were sort of identified by yourself through rigorous communication between the agencies and relevant parties and different stakeholders. And then we had a discussion about needs assessment in the previous session. So, you know, that needs assessment was done by external experts visiting the country. And then we have several assessment after assessments. Sorry. And in this case, we were assessing, thank you, by the way, the assessments done by the national entities. So that is, I think, one key takeaway. And also, thank you for mentioning Interpol's IDC product, which it actually naturally flows to Tatiana because she's actually one certified IDC instructor, Interpol Instructor Development Course, tongue twister. So
top-notch training from people that not were only giving training, they were developing forensic tools that I could use on the field for free, like the University of Dublin. And they introduced me to a whole new world. It was the first time I ever heard about a Faraday bag. Like, for me, it was like seeing some Disney movie. But the thing was that, yeah, my reality wasn't that. The reality of the course is that it was in English. So fortunately, my country has two official languages, Spanish and Guarani, that is an indigenous language. So we were only three, the people that spoke English sufficiently to access this course. And it was online. In my reality is there is power shortage in Paraguay. There is very bad internet connection. And also the access to the hardware. I know we said we have limited resources, but I just want to point it out. How is it in my reality? That I received this training with like these forensic tools, and maybe I don't have the equipment to use it. So maybe you may ask, why are these countries receiving this? Like, why are they showing this to the poor countries? One may say, my country is very rich. After I received a case from Bundeskriminalamt, that is the FBI of Germany. And we have 4 agents coming to Paraguay and working on a deep web case. And I was lucky enough to receive that e-first training and know how they were working. And I was also, not only with the e-first, that it was from So I was able to make my first legal request asking for a rate and authorization to access live data. That was just a striking point in my career, and I was very determined for the rest of my colleagues to access this kind of training. So we needed to find this course in Spanish, and we have to adapt it to the Paraguayan reality. And the Paraguayan reality is not just Paraguay, it's the whole Latin America. I think Interpol understood this assignment when they developed the IDC course. So they trained the trainers, and also they made a week after, because the train of trainers is not just about...
For Interpol steps, we don't travel anymore to Latin America from Singapore, which is rather far. just the pool is doing their organization. They produce they design the product, by the way, from the scratch, and they develop the contents, and then they implement it, and then after that they actually assess, hey, this quiz was not good, maybe we should change. They evaluate this, and this is all from the course developing IDC course core content. So for us, it's actually very easy. We are delivering what I think is more efficient, more locally contextualized contents to the audiences by the regional pool of experts. That was well, win-win situation for. I mean, I was also very happy not having to travel.
So you're making a career on your back.
Yeah. Thank you. Close. Okay, thank you. So I think I'm going to Rodolphe first before going to Atul. I think Rodolphe will be speaking in French. Rodolphe, could you reflect on your own experience from information systems data agency of your country? What kind of strategic or partnership or strategic, interagency cooperation do you have with law enforcement or other stakeholders in your country? And then what kind of synergy could you sort of create?
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Before starting, I would like to congratulate all the organizers for this conference and congratulate Ghana government for the commodities. After that, give me permission to go in French like Mr. Okim said. Pour parler du partenariat interagence qui s'est développé en République du Bénin, nous devons considérer la cybercriminalité comme un océan ou bien une rivière que nous avons à traverser. Et la traversée, c'est une affaire d'équipe pour qu'il n'y ait pas de cas de noyade, pour que nous puissions atteindre l'autre rive. Et cela s'est traduit par une volonté politique au sommet de l'État en République du Bénin, de sorte que nous avons eu une vision et des réformes qui ont commencé par le cadre juridique et institutionnel. À l'issue, il a été mis en place l'Agence nationale de la sécurité des systèmes d'information, devenue aujourd'hui Agence des systèmes d'information et du numérique. Et c'est cette agence qui est chargée de fédérer la coopération nationale et internationale. Et nous n'avions pas eu besoin de disposer de beaucoup d'argent ou des millions ou des milliards, que ce soit en euros ou en dollars, avant d'avancer. Ça a commencé d'abord par l'intégration au projet Glacis Plus du Conseil de l'Europe et de l'Union européenne, qui ont regardé la compatibilité de la législation béninoise avec la Convention de Budapest. Nous avons commencé ces travaux avec M. Matteo, que je salue au passage. Aujourd'hui, avec toute l'équipe de M. Alexander, nous allons plus loin. Du coup, les premières formations ont débuté en ligne puisque c'était le temps de la Covid. Les ressources dont nous avions besoin, c'était juste les ressources énergétiques et la connexion Internet. Et nous avons fait progressivement. D'abord, les cadres de l'agence Après, nous avons intégré les policiers, notamment les officiers de police judiciaire, ceux qui dirigent les enquêtes. Et nous avons été par unité de police. Des unités de police, nous avons intégré maintenant le ministère de la Justice, notamment les juges et les procureurs. À commencer par ceux qui sont à Cotonou, la capitale. Parce qu'il fallait trouver des ressources pour déplacer ceux qui sont en dehors de Cotonou, ceux dont nous ne disposions pas au moment où nous avons démarré. Donc, il faut retenir que fondamentalement, l'argent n'a pas été un facteur bloquant. Ensuite, nous l'avons élargi aux professeurs d'université, notamment des facultés de droit. Et c'est après cela que nous sommes arrivés à commencer par intégrer progressivement d'autres acteurs non étatiques, notamment ceux du secteur privé. Je veux dire les banques, les assurances et toutes les autres compagnies. Nous avons développé maintenant au sein de l'agence un CERT national et incité toutes les autres structures potentiellement vulnérables à développer des CERT que le CERT du gouvernement fédère. Ça a été notre cadre d'échange. Et en cette faveur, le pont s'est établi de telle sorte que lorsque nous avons des paramètres où nous avons des activités de renforcement de capacité, des activités pour signaler ou pour accompagner dans le cas de malveillance, l'agence est devenue le point focal national opérationnel par qui tout est routé. Voilà un peu de façon très simple la façon dont nous avons procédé au Bénin pour aujourd'hui mettre en place un cadre interinstitutionnel super solide. Et je voudrais finir en vous informant que hier, le Conseil des ministres a acté la fusion de l'Office central de répression de la cybercriminalité, qui est en fait la police de lutte contre la cybercriminalité, avec la partie de l'agence qui traite des questions de lutte contre la cybercriminalité. Parce que nous avons actualisé notre stratégie nationale qui avait eu échéance 2020 à 2023. Nous avons regardé les faiblesses et nous avons vu que pour une meilleure lutte plus efficace, il faut mettre ensemble ces deux acteurs et ça va permettre de consolider et les compétences et les ressources. Ensuite, ça permettra une meilleure couverture du territoire. Ensuite, une réactivité plus rapide face à ce phénomène. Et donc, depuis hier, pour ceux qui sont allés sur Internet, le Bénin a désormais un centre national d'investigation numérique qui va rassembler forces de police, notamment officiers de police judiciaire, les juristes, les conseillers juridiques, les investigateurs numériques que sont les ingénieurs et autres en cette unité. Voilà l'aboutissement de notre cadre. Merci.
Thank you, Rodolphe. So to me, it was a gradual self-assessment and gradually opening up to the partners in the country, a gradual inclusion process. Impressive. Thank you so much. I would like to move on to Atu, our only private sector speaker. Atu, would you like to share your experiences as an industry security provider? You worked with different countries, law enforcement, and then your company itself is a small and medium-sized company. Where does the responsibilities of the private sector players, such as your company, lie in terms of local, regional capacity building, in contrast to the subscription model where many countries cannot really pay for many security products? So how do you see your role in that big picture?
Okay, so thank you, Yukim. So first and foremost, I'm the only private partner, so it's a very interesting panel. So to answer the question, I think for private entities, I believe that one of the biggest barriers is the entrance that you can get to, access law enforcement and to basically speak with them. And for private partners, I think there are a number of such private partners who are doing a lot of credible jobs, especially in the field of threat intelligence that can be easily tapped into. But the barrier that exists is actually the connection that you can have with the law enforcement. And I think Glacy Plus project in correlation with Council of Europe and Interpol has actually provided us with that opportunity, as a result of which we have been able to be subject matter experts in certain areas. So speaking of actually like my experience, when we talk about like capacity building from a private sector entity, the one thing that actually we can do is create a lot of awareness first, because especially when I'm talking about cryptocurrency related threats, which is what I do and I tackle, there is still a lot of or a lack of awareness in a number of countries, and we are doing it in and out on a daily basis to identify threats in various regions. So providing that kind of awareness is one of the first things that we can do to basically talk about the kind of threats that exist in a specific geographical region. Secondly, again, this is purely based off my experience. Based on the number of projects that we've had with Glacy Plus, one of the key insights that we've identified is that I think when it comes to the capacity building for law enforcement, the level of capacity building that is required for different law enforcement units can also differ. Like, for example, if we were to talk about a country's criminal investigation department or a CERT, usually these are the agencies that actually look into the investigations and try to build a bigger picture. So in such organizations, we need to have a lot more in-depth training, which is what we had provided, wherein we specifically spoke about the technologies, because even in the previous panel, like how Alexander mentioned, the technologies keep changing. But what private partners can actually do is to explain these kind of technological concepts in a very concise and simple manner to law enforcement, and later on even talk about how cybercrime is being done using these kind of technologies. So this is one thing that we have been doing, which has really helped. And another thing is that oftentimes, like when we speak to different organizations from the law enforcement, another gap that we had seen was that, for example, in a specific country, the judicial department might not be having the right amount of training as what a criminal investigation department would have. So then, again, when the court proceedings do take place, there is a gap in the sense that the technological concepts cannot be sort of translated to the judicial department. So, but at the same time, we believe that the judicial department, again, I didn't know about Paraguay, that the judicial side is also acting as a law enforcement, but I would say that it is very much important for the judicial department to also understand the technological concepts, like, for example, if I were to talk about blockchain, like if we were to present an evidence based on blockchain concepts, that sort of information is necessary to be given to them. So I believe as private partners, we can actually be able to identify the different levels of training which are basically required for different law enforcement units, especially when it comes to those who are involved in case coordination, and accordingly we can deliver certain instances. So I would like to conclude by that.
Thank you, Atul. Atul has not been too specific about those services that he provided, sort of without really getting financial gain as a company. But there has been many cooperation, case coordination, training contributed by players like Uppsala. Thank you for that. Alexander, would you like to? Would you like to elaborate the approach of the Council of Europe in supporting locally led development in criminal justice capabilities? Especially, do you agree or disagree that to the sentence, one size fits all training models, or would you like to prioritize external expertise over local knowledge? Which one is more important to you in your approach?
That's a very complicated question, I would say. But I would like to first make two comments on what was said previously, namely what Xavier Rodolphe said about strategies, policies to be developed by governments. I think this is crucial, so that there is the political support to what he and what criminal justice authorities need to do. Political support, hopefully also coming with the necessary budget allocations, of course. That's important. Also, I think it was Claudio who made a reference to the country teams, or was it Claudio who made a reference to country teams? There's one thing one approach we have been using all along, and it's been a very valuable one. When we work in a country on a capacity building program like LACY, like the Octopus project or other projects that we have, you work with multiple organizations. You work with police, prosecutors, judges. You work with sometimes CERTs when it comes to data sharing with cybersecurity, law enforcement. You work with ministries of justice and parliaments for legislation. You work with police training academies. You work with judicial training academies, and in some countries, depending on the legal system, the justice training academies are separate from the prosecution training academies, and so on. So by requiring a priority country to establish a country team where each of these institutions is represented at maybe 4, 5, 6, or 7 institutions, we have a reach to, if we have 10 priority countries, already to about 50 institutions in countries. And that is crucial to have this ownership by the country teams to drive change. So this is just a reaction to what has been said so far. When it comes to judicial training, we all know what needs to be done. We also know how it is to be done, but we have to also do it. We developed in 2008, 2009, a concept for judicial training as opposed to law enforcement training, and in this sense, where we said we have to, in a country, we have to train a core number of trainers, justice, prosecutors or judges that then also function as trainers. Preferably they come already from a judicial training academy. Then we work with those trainers in the adaptation of training materials. And then we support them in the delivery of initial courses, basic courses, or more advanced courses. But then this whole thing should also be integrated into curriculum of training academies. And then at the end, we are not needed anymore. The biggest success of a capacity building program is if we are not needed anymore, right? And then if you take also then the example of Dominican Republic, where then that training academy also delivers training for members of other countries. So that is an ideal model which is also sustainable. It does not depend us or trainers to go there. As you said yourself, you don't send trainers anymore, right? They're already in the region.
Very happy about it.
Yeah. You don't like to travel to Latin America? Yeah. So this is for judicial training, and judicial training as opposed to law enforcement training, one size does not necessarily fit all. The approach may fit, but the way a lawyer becomes a judge in France is very different from how a lawyer becomes a judge in Germany. Very different training approach. And in the UK, it's again very different. Anglophone systems very different from other countries. So it doesn't fit all. You have to really tailor it to the specific conditions of a given country. Secondly, you also, judges, prosecutors, they apply the domestic law. You then have to, of course, adapt it to the domestic law and also your procedural codes, to know what is in my country required. Do I need a warrant for what power and so on? So this has to be adapted to the domestic needs. In law enforcement, you can take the ACTA courses and you can go to Ireland and you can apply it in Paraguay, right? And similar all over the world. But for judicial training, it has to be a bit more targeted. And one final comment on the sustainability side. Countries that are parties to the Budapest Convention normally don't drop out from the convention. It's rare that a country denounces a treaty and drops out, and people love the Budapest Convention so much that they will never drop out from that, which means they are part, on the long run, of a given structure, of a framework, namely the framework of the Budapest Convention. So apart from delivering training now and again next week, or having local trainers trained, twice a year or more, they all meet in Strasbourg for meetings of the Cybercrime Convention Group. So there's also that additional structure that ensures sustainability. And also, once we help countries develop legislation, sometimes with our support, sometimes quite often on their own, absolutely okay. And then that also ensures sustainability, because criminal law doesn't change very often. So there are lots of factors that contribute to a sustainable approach to training. What we don't like is that we come with experts in a country, with foreign experts in a country, deliver training, and then we go out, and that was the last time we have been seen there. That doesn't work.
Thank you, Alexander. I think I really like the point. I think what we as a law enforcement organization is lacking is actually the ecosystem of combining all the national players together. So, for example, Budapest Convention itself is creating a community, and then it actually is it has the sticking effect. Was there any country that dropped out from No. So you are connecting, like what Rodolfo has described. You will invite inclusively all the relevant parties, and then it will create the network ecosystem, and then the law enforcement has the access to all the different players of the country. So that actually brings the cycle of impact for. It's very different experience for Interpol also to be part of this, to operate in this sort of three-dimensional environment, which is a new experiment for us also. Thank you very much. We sort of started late, so I would like to, before I throw the second and last question, which will be more about examples, maybe more success stories or failed stories, or you may just end with we didn't do well and then we want to do it differently. It's fine, but I would like to open to the floor. If there's any question, you can just raise your hand before we will move on to our second part of the questions. We don't have much questions from the floor. Okay, good. Solved. Solved. The second question, without any order, whoever can come first. Thank you, Claudio. So the question is, any good examples, bad examples? How would you do differently, or would you continue doing it?
I think that in terms of examples, or maybe more than an example, maybe a suggestion, because one of the challenges of this model that is sustainable in terms of training is trying to get as much workforce retention, stability as you possibly can. Obviously, the challenge that we have in government is that we cannot possibly compete with the private sector. So we start training people, and in 3, 4, 5 years, they're offered 6 times what they're making by the private sector, multinational or a bank or something like that. So on one hand, one thing that has prolonged this period a little bit, I was in a panel yesterday, and somebody mentioned that they were able to, they lost people at 5 years, and they were, what? How did you do that? And we cannot get people to stay more than 3 years before we lose them, and so on. One thing that had worked for us in retaining them a little bit longer is using other types of incentives in terms of the human resources department and so on, and I think that actually this is an incentive in itself, because they will go out to the private sector to work, but they will not receive as much training and as much tools and so on as they do when you are a beneficiary of one of these projects. So that in of itself, I think it's one of those things. But at the end of the day, I think, and again, that's why you insert all this training into the curricula of your different academies, and because it has to be a never-going process. It has to be like the Japanese just-in-time system. You keep producing people because you're inevitably going to lose them, so you never stop training because you will eventually need them. So it's better to have 10 trained people that you're still not using, than needing 5 people and not having anyone.
Thank you, Claudio. Something that we cannot really easily solve, that one. Every law enforcement has a similar situation. Tatiana, what would you advise to the group?
Well, I think that in our case, applying the strategic plans and in the optics of actually practitioners that are in the field are the ones that set the roles and what activity each one does and what kind of training they need, and not just a training in theory, but practical training. I think that's sort of key. First, to have an analysis on what activities you should be trained for, and the other is actual practical training and tabletop exercises, and actually in the field training.
Would you, when you conduct the analysis and sort of a design and develop these products, where would you mentioned the AgTech eFirst program, or whatever AgTech pre-existing thick material. So from where to where would you do yourself as a law enforcement of a country, and then from where will you make use of this?
So we attacked eFirst because that was the most urgent manner, but for me it's like a ladder, and we go from the basics to the top. Usually you ask for public policy and cyber policy, but we in some countries are is a never-ending crisis, so we are just setting the fire off. So we do my idea is to do eFirst, to do magistrates, judges, the digital forensics specialists, and the top thing will be the cyber policy.
Thank you. That was not a prepared question. Atul. We are running out of time. We have 1 minute.
Okay, so to summarize, I think I'll just share a quick success story. So when we worked with Glacy Plus, so I think one of the good things about the Glacy Plus project is that it really reaches the grassroots levels in a specific country. And in this specific activity, we were in Sri Lanka, where we had gathered around law enforcement agencies from multiple law enforcement entities, like the criminal investigation department, the attorney general, the judicial department, all under one roof. And during the course, actually, the interesting thing was that they even shared a case with us, which they had been doing for quite some time, but they had hit a snag. And since private partner like myself was present, we were able to quickly help them out. And in the end, actually, what came out to be was we managed to freeze close to $10 million worth of crypto assets, which wouldn't have, which would have been a lot more difficult if all the pieces were not there. So for us, I think we see private partners as like a small entity in the cybercrime area, where we can really help you to get things up and running at a very fast pace. And examples such as this actually proves that we all work towards the same stuff. So with that, I'd like to end.
Thank you, Atu, for the success.
Thank you, Okin. Dans le cas du Bénin, ce que nous pouvons retenir en termes de succès, c'est que déjà de juillet 2020 à cette date, nous avons une 80aine, environ 82 officiers de police judiciaire dont les capacités sont renforcées et très opérationnelles. Nous avons une 50aine, exactement 53 juges et procureurs du Bénin formés. Ensuite, il y a un personnel diversifié, dont des universitaires, des ingénieurs et autres. Ils sont environ 35 formés. Et M. Alexander l'a dit tout à l'heure, rentrer dans le cadre de la Convention de Budapest, ce n'est qu'un meilleur cadre d'où vous ne pouvez pas ressortir. Et les résultats sont plus élogieux que cela. Bientôt, à partir de la prochaine rentrée, nous avons une stratégie nationale d'introduction de modules de cours sur la cybercriminalité et les preuves électroniques dans le cursus de formation des magistrats, des juges et procureurs au Bénin. Et nous l'avons séquencé en 2 phases. Un cours initial pour les élèves en formation et un cours en formation continue pour ceux qui sont déjà sur le terrain. Aujourd'hui, le Bénin, grâce à Glacy+, a 4 référents nationaux. Il y a moi-même, il y a un professeur d'université qui dirigera bientôt un master spécialisé en cybercriminalité et cybersécurité. Ça, c'est toujours le volet acquis de cette coopération. Il y a 2 magistrats. Aujourd'hui, l'un est procureur à la Cour de répression des infractions économiques et du terrorisme qui traite des questions de cybercriminalité aussi. Il est procureur là. Et la deuxième, elle est une dame. C'est pour vous dire que nous avons intégré l'approche genre. Elle est juge en instance suprême de la même cour. Donc, du coup, vous avez des exemples très précis. Pour finir, il y a que dans quelques semaines, vous allez apprendre que le Bénin a déposé ses instruments de ratification de la Convention de Budapest, doublé des 2 protocoles. Parce que là, c'est transmis maintenant à l'Assemblée nationale. Actuellement, c'est la période budgétaire au Parlement. C'est pourquoi ce n'est pas encore évoqué. Et vous allez également apprendre que le Bénin a ratifié la Convention de Malabo également. C'est pour vous dire que nous en avons vraiment pris conscience, de telle sorte que nous sommes, comme je l'ai dit, dans une phase de non-retour. Et nous sommes prêts à coopérer davantage avec tous les autres pays et toutes les autres nations intéressées par la lutte contre la cybercriminalité. Aujourd'hui, je peux dire que le Bénin regorge de ressources à même d'appuyer même des pays de la sous-région qui seront invités à adhérer à la Convention de Budapest, même si c'est pour les assessments. Et même s'il y avait des départs parmi nous qui sommes des référents ou qui sommes formés, il n'y aura pas du tout de creux. On a préparé en même temps des suppléants au fur et à mesure. Voilà un peu ce que nous pouvons retenir comme approche au Bénin. Merci.
Thank you. Thank you, Rodolphe. Congratulations for the success and then also promising posture there. Last but not least, Alexander.
I mean, I'm replacing Catalina Stroh here, you know, because she is in fact the Glacy project manager, but she couldn't come because of a last-minute thing. And I discussed with her, you know, what keeps us going, you know, what keeps her being very early in the office, being the last one to leave, what keeps her doing, responding on weekends and at night to things and so on. And it's people like this, you know, that keeps us going. People that make use of the opportunities that we offer, that we create, but then run with it and make the difference. And that's all we need. No, it's not all, but that takes us a very, very long way in making a difference.
Thank you. Let's make some difference. I think we have discussed a few concrete activities, such as we have discussed about judicial training, building the strategic plans as a country. We have discussed how the TOT or design the course by a country can work. Private sector, what's the role there, and then interagency cooperation. And all those things are, I wouldn't say this is really what best practice or anything, because you know there obviously is not some certain way. The title of this session was actually driving changes from inside. So you know when we think about ourselves as a human, we want somebody else to do something. You really can. You have to try this and that. You need some creativity. And if the person is not moving, you should be sort of understanding because maybe your method was not wrong, was not too good maybe. So I hope that we can make the differences and be creative and then keep on going. Thank you very much for coming to the session. And thank you panelists. Thank you everybody. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.